a very good evening to all our viewers. Welcome to the ninth episode of the season 2 of Rainmakers podcast. And today we are also marking our season finale. Of course, as always, we have a special guest who is joining with us tonight. And before that, let us warmly welcome our co-host, as always, a CFO, a chartered accountant, Yogan Prasad Satyasela.
Pleasure to be here, as always. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Yoga. And without further ado, let me introduce our guest tonight. He had a distinguished career in the army for 25 years and retired as a colonel and has won several medals for bravery in the battlefield. After retirement, he served as the Senior Manger Training in Sri Lanka Insurance and Hemas Holdings PLC. And he currently specializes as a leadership trainer and an executive coach. He is an executive coach trained by esteemed organizations such as International Coaching Federation USA and Coaching Foundation Sri Lanka. And he's also accredited as a professional certified coach. So let us all welcome Colonel Raj Vijayasiri to the Rainmakers podcast. Welcome, Raj.
Thank you, Donna, and thank you, Yoga, for that wonderful introduction. I'm looking forward for the session today.
It's a pleasure to have you. Now let us see what lessons we can all learn from a leader who has led and trained people in many varied fields and industries. And what are his secrets to this season's theme, harnessing the true potential of people? Yoga?
Raj, it's such an honor and a pleasure to have you here on the season finale of the season 2. We have been looking forward to have you as a guest in this season because you have led people, led teams, and taken them to success. Trained people, trained teams, and taken them to success in many different fields. So why don't we first start with the journey thus far? What has been your journey? And how have you come here?
Yes, thank you, Yoga. So I would like to tell my journey in 3 parts. The first part is going to be the military of my life, and secondly, my private sector corporate life, and finally, my transition into an independent trainer and a consultant. So to start with my military journey, I joined the military on 12th of August 1980 as an officer cadet to the military academy Diyatalava. So we had a 1.5 years training, and then I, of course, topped the batch. We had a batch of about 25 cadets. I topped the batch, and as a result, I was selected to join an elite regiment called the Sri Lanka Armored Corps, which has the tanks. So I joined Sri Lanka Armored Corps in 1982, passing out as a second lieutenant, and then I had a career in the Armored Corps for about 4 years. I think my most enjoyable and most interesting things I did as a tank regiment officer was in Jaffna and also in the East. I had about 4 years there from 1982, latter part of 82 towards 86. And I had pleasant memories of going around in Jaffna, all of Jaffna, maybe, enjoying the fish, enjoying the people, and sometimes enjoying even a bit of toddy. Jaffna famous toddy. So I only remember that.
Yep.
And after then, I had a bit of a transition from my military career in 86, where even at Armored Corps, I had a tendency not just do the Armored Corps duties of just escorting large convoys. And I used to do small team operations with my armor, my troops there. And therefore, as a result, I had an interest to join either the commandos or special forces. At that time, a new unit was formed by none other than my guru and my post commander, General Gavini Hettiarachchi. He was a major at that time, and it was called RDF. RDF stands for Rapid Deployment Force.
Right.
And one of my batchmates, my batch second, Colonel Fasti Lafir, late Colonel Fasti Lafir, who died in Mulativ in 1996, he was also there as one of the primary members there, original members there.
Right.
So I joined them a little later in '86, and I had a wonderful career as a special forces officer, which was very challenging, very exciting also, and also a bit of a dangerous life. But I learned a lot about how to lead people in very extreme, stressful conditions. So that's where I think my foundation for my leadership competencies were fully tested when I was an active member of the Special Forces.
Right.
And then in 20, sorry, in 19, towards 2020, 2005, I retired. And by the time I retired, I already had done a master's in management,
Right.
which really paved the way for me to join the corporate sector. And
Yeah.
my first job really was joining Sri Lanka Insurance Corporation as a senior manager training and development.
Right.
Uh, so there also I had a very exciting career there. I
Yeah.
learned really a lot about how to transition myself into a corporate leader,
Yeah.
which was a tough journey for me
Correct.
because I was in a culture, very hierarchical,
Right.
very command-driven culture for almost 25 years.
Yeah.
And for me to change from that to this life
Yeah.
was a bit challenging. But I still remember the person who mentored me was Mr. Isuru Tilakavadan, who was the head of HR at that time. And he did a wonderful job by guiding me, mentoring me into my role as a private sector leader and a manager. And I
Right.
had a very interesting period for 3 years there, taking a lot of initiatives, not only in training, but
Right.
also in many other aspects of insurance corporation activities,
Yes.
such as sports, even maybe even involved in certain marketing kind of activities.
Right.
Then, of course, I joined Hemas Holdings, which was a conglomerate. I wanted to change,
Mm.
and I thought of maybe broadening my horizons, and therefore I joined Hemas Holdings, and that was again a different culture again from Sri Lanka Insurance. There again,
Yeah.
I learned a lot about how a conglomerate operates, various business units being headed by a CEO and various business units led by managing directors. And
Yeah.
there I had exposure into leisure, pharmaceutical, healthcare, manufacturing, IT, services, and travel and leisure. So it
Right.
was a very nice all-round exposure for me. So that's
Mm.
basically my journey in the corporate world. And then, of course, I wanted to be an independent trainer and a consultant.
Mm.
So here today, I laid that foundation and got my coaching competencies certified as a coach. And in 2000, from 2005 onwards, 2015 onwards, I am an independent trainer and a consultant. So that's my journey.
What an amazing journey, Raj. I think,
Good.
what is beautiful is that some of us already say we are too tired in one profession, whereas you had a very
Okay.
tough, challenging uphill battle, and then
Yeah.
from there you
26.
moved on to the private sector, and then now you have gone on to venture into becoming a consultant. That's amazing. What an amazing journey. I think this is a perfect platform from which we can build on the discussion. Donna, why don't you take it from here?
Yeah, of course. Thank you very much, Raj, for sharing your story with us. Well, like all other military leaders, you were ready to sacrifice yourself for the country, Raj. So, not many of us will be courageous or selfless to do that. So, what really inspired you?
Well, in fact, as a young guy just out of school, I was really looking for a job. So it was really initial motivation was not really serving the nation or anything, just looking
Right.
for a job to, serve my family, my mother and my
Hmm.
my siblings. And there. But it was such that my fate, since I did my school cadetting, it was for me easy for me to join the military, and uh, and I went for the interviews and I did well, and as a result, I got selected into the military career. But then once I joined, I had a habit of, like, I mean, doing my best in whatever I do. So that way, I managed to do well even during my career period. I had some wonderful batchmates
Hmm.
whom we still keep in touch. Most of them are generals today. Some of them are not living today. But we had a wonderful time in the military academy. And then during the operations, of course, I kind of did my best again, and enjoyed whatever I was doing, and always
Hmm.
try to do something different.
Hmm.
So that's really what that was my passion. I think that
Right.
kept me going.
Right.
Uh, yeah. So for example, so because of that passion, I managed to maybe establish few things which are unique, like for example, the long range recce patrol methods, which was a
Hmm.
very kind of very highly effective military element during the war, which was, of course, I took a leading role in establishing that.
Right.
Uh, yes.
Amazing. Fantastic, isn't it? Hmm.
Yeah.
Beautiful. No, I
Thank you.
think what inspires me, I learned two things from that answer, Raj.
Okay.
One is one is when people look back, people usually tell amazing stories.
Yes.
People look back and bring up stories from nowhere and tell them of stories that are equal to movies. But
Yeah.
you are here after achieving something amazing and being awarded and respected. You're saying you're being absolutely honest when you say that I did it because I wanted a job, first of all, and then you taught us a very important lesson, I believe. That is, most of us say we are still pursuing our passion. We don't know what our passion is, we are going after it. But then you say that could be true, but then I chose something and I did my best, and that became my passion, and I did absolutely best in it.
Yeah.
Amazing learning, I think. That's
Yeah.
amazing. Thank you very much for being honest and sharing that learning with you. Learning
Yeah.
with us
You're
today.
welcome.
Amazing. From that, I will ask this question, Raj.
Yes.
Now, one of the fundamental things people say about the military is the trust and the bond the brothers and the sisters within the military have with each
Yeah.
other. Fundamental glue that holds any relationship together is trust, especially in the battlefield, they say.
Yeah.
How do you have built so many successful teams? What are your secrets to building a trusting team?
Yeah, I think when trust, I think is some of the one of the fundamental things especially in a highly efficient combat unit, which is exposed to danger almost on a kind of a daily basis. Be it special forces, we don't sit behind bunkers and face the war.
Yeah.
We
Hmm.
always just wear a pack and go to the jungles and
Yeah.
face our enemy on
Hmm.
a basically daily basis, other than the days we are training and resting. So trust is a hugely important factor. You can be the best soldier in the world, but you cannot survive without the help of the others. I
Right.
can still remember an example where my buddy at that time, back in Trincomalee jungles, we were assaulting in the LTT hideout, and they were firing at us, we were firing at them, and my buddy just kicked me with a huge kick,
Right.
and I fell to a side. In fact, that saved my life. What happened was he saw an enemy pointing a gun at me, and that time he just, without even thinking about himself, he kicked me. Though I was his superior, he kicked me and I fell on the ground, and that saved my life. That
Wow.
shows trust.
Yeah.
So trust is very, very important in military units. But at the same time, I think trust is also important in today's corporate world when you are leading teams.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So if you are a leader, I think for you to build trust, one element, there are about three elements I can talk of. One
Right.
important element is authenticity. What do you mean by authenticity is you should not try to be someone else what you are not. And
Yeah.
and in most of I saw in many fields, whether you are a business leader, political leader, or religious leader, you try to portray something that you are not,
Right.
and that people normally see through you after some time. So therefore, it's always better to be authentic and to be true to yourself. So that will
Yeah.
create a lot of trust in your people. They know when you say something, they believe in you.
You
Second
mean it.
important point is empathy, I think.
Hmm.
Being empathetic sometimes, in especially sometime back, I think in our managerial leadership kind of styles, being tough and being very task oriented was looked at like the best way to get results from people.
Yeah.
But I think times have changed.
Yeah.
People are more educated.
Yeah.
Young generations are more educated. They want more freedom. They want more kind of maybe freedom to do things on their own. So
Yeah.
therefore, trusting your team members and being aware of who they are, try to get to know who those people are behind that name, is a very
Hmm.
important thing to build trust. So you,
Yeah.
as a leader, you should try to understand deeply about who your team is. So that's the
Yeah.
second thing. And finally, I think the final point is the logic, in the sense, how do you communicate
Yeah.
very directly and also concisely, where you create confidence in your team. So for that, you should try to develop that style of communication where you use few words, but you carry the message to your audience. So that way, I think my Toastmaster experience, Yoga and Donna, both of you being my colleagues at Pinnacle also, I
Yeah.
learned a lot from my Toastmaster colleagues
Hmm.
Yeah.
and Toastmaster organization
Yeah.
greatly in that aspect, being
Yeah.
more brisk communicator. So those are, I think, the three elements. And I think trust is the glue that holds any team, be it a military unit which is in the combat in the front field, battlefield, or a sales team, or a marketing team, or a finance team. So you, as a leader, has a great responsibility to
Yeah.
nurture and build it. So you need
True.
to look after it as a like a plant. You have to put manure, you have to put water, keep it till
Yeah.
sunlight, so it
Yeah.
grows.
Yeah. So to summarize, Raj, authenticity. Second is
Empathy,
Empathy.
empathy, and then
and
communication.
third is logic.
So be authentic
Logic
as a
in your
leader.
communication.
Yeah. So be authentic as a leader. If you make a mistake, accept it.
Yeah, accept it.
Be yourself, isn't it?
Exactly.
Amazing. And then be empathetic about others. When they make a mistake, be empathetic. If there is an issue, be empathetic. And then
Exactly.
be concise and clear about your communication.
Correct.
That's
Yeah.
amazing. Raj, on that, I just have, I know Donna wants to ask the next question.
No, I
But
also have something to ask with regard to this. So,
okay,
of
then ladies first, of course. Donna, yeah, go ahead.
course, you go ahead.
Okay, I'll jump in quickly and then I'll ask
Right.
this, Raj. Mm, um, so you spoke about how to build trust. Let's
Yeah.
say one of your colleagues broke the trust.
Right.
How do we build it back? Like when somebody has done something that is not trustworthy, but
Yes.
then as a team there will be situations like that. We have to build that trust back.
Right.
How do we do that?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that reminds me of a famous leader, General
Right.
Colin Powell
Okay.
of the
us.
United States Army. I think
Yeah.
who had a huge role in the Desert Storm War,
Right.
and later as the Secretary of Defense in the U.S. government.
Right.
And he was a highly respected leader in the U.S.
Right.
military.
Yes.
So what he said was like, if one of your team member does a mistake, something like
Hmm.
breaking trust even,
Yeah.
pick them, dust them off and pick them up. Basically, what they say is, what he says is, everyone commits mistakes.
Yeah.
You just don't condemn your team member. You try to, pick them up,
Yeah.
show them the right way. But if you have to take some action, also be courageous enough to take whatever that action,
Yeah.
because that's also important. But do not kind of try to write them off.
Right.
Sometimes as we do, sometimes we
Understood.
do
Yeah.
as leaders.
So when somebody makes a mistake, don't be like, okay, that's it.
No.
Yeah. No, never be that.
Yeah.
And then give them an opportunity to come back and join back as a team member.
Yeah, exactly. But there can be certain, perhaps in our corporate world, there are certain violations. Like for example, now recently, I think these days that the in U.S. governor of New York,
Yeah.
Cuomo, is resigning for
Yeah.
sexual harassment. Right, level
Sexual harassment. Yes.
have come up, and I mean there are, of course,
There is
you,
no.
you will not have an option because those
Of
are
course.
ethical
Of course.
violations that
Correct.
you cannot kind of write off. But
Yeah.
other than that, perhaps 80% of the time you can pick them up and help them to be better next time.
That's amazing.
That's
That's
beautiful.
beautiful. That's beautiful. Thank you very much, Raj. Uh,
Yeah. So my question is, Raj. So you were talking about, like, in terms of building trust. The first point was to really be authentic. So one problem that people really do have in being authentic is whether the others would be willing to accept you for who you are. And
yes.
sometimes when you fake it out, there are chances that people would accept, and people would give you more opportunities. And I have seen that a lot in, like, in terms of, if even if you're starting a business, if you say that we have not had prior experience, one person could be very hesitant to give you opportunities, whereas
Yeah.
if he can at least show that he can handle it through some experience, even though he could be faking it, he might get some opportunity. So
Yeah.
like that, there is quite a little bit of a controversy to what extent can we really be authentic. And there
Yes.
was, for instance, there was again an example where there is this person who is extremely, like, huge in the e-commerce field in Sri Lanka, where he said,
Yeah.
like, his first order, he really pretended as if it's his 100th order,
Yeah.
whereas it was just his first one, right? So there was, yeah, I mean, so then he was able to build the trust through that. And
Right.
so my question to you is, where do we strike this right balance of, like, should we be 100% authentic, or,
Right.
like, in what situations should we conceal? What do you think?
Right. No, no, no. I think it's a personal choice.
Yeah,
It's a personal choice. It depends on your value system. And of course, being in a culture like ours in South Asian cultures, where we have a lot of baggage we carry as individuals, sometimes as organizations, as cultures.
yeah,
So therefore, in this kind of a cultures, perhaps you need to be maybe be concerned about it. And so being authentic, so that doesn't mean that you kind of you don't try to tell a lie, but you
Yeah.
can be smart enough to kind of carry your message
right,
effectively without
Yeah.
telling a lie. So
Yeah.
that's what you need to do in a cultures like ours, where
Yeah.
people perhaps judge you by sometimes maybe the car you drive, the
Yeah.
house you live,
House you
and the
have and
people you associate and things like
correct.
that. So this is
Yeah.
yeah,
society like that. But if you go to a European country, it's quite different. But I don't say that it's totally different. Still,
Yeah.
those things carry some weight in those
They judge
countries.
also.
But
Yeah.
I think those countries allow you to be more authentic. That's my
Mm.
experience. I've been to
Right.
many countries for training, especially military training. That's what
Yeah.
I observed there.
Right. Right. Right.
thank you
Amazing.
very much. Yeah.
That's
So
amazing. That's amazing.
let me head on to the next question straight away, Yoga.
Right.
um, So you have been hailed for the strategic planning and analytical thinking capabilities. So how can one improve in the analytical thinking, Raj?
Yes, I think analytical thinking is a critical competency any leader should develop. Now,
Yeah,
in my case, my analytical thinking, the military put the foundation for that because I was fortunate to go to U.S. United States Army twice for military training there.
yeah,
And my second program was called 1 year program. For my, I did my masters also there, United States Commander General Staff College. We had about 1,000 students in that program from
Right.
85 countries.
Wow.
Right.
So and there we were put into various scenarios, military as well as other civil scenarios, to analyze situations and derive logical solutions for those situations. So the same principle can be applied even in the uh, private sector corporate world. So what I
Right.
Yeah.
see is that most of the corporate world, the initial analytical thinking came from the military thinking.
Yeah.
Most of the managerial skills were
Came
basically
from the
leader skills that were translated into the corporate world. But of course, the
correct.
corporate world has uh, gone a long way forward since the last, say, 3 to 4 decades, with the
Hmm.
advancement of technology, information technology, being a global village. Those aspects have changed that. But again, the fundamentals of analytical thinking is basically, if you have a issue, whether it's your issue with a sales team, maybe with whether it's a bigger top team level issue.
Yeah.
So what we do is, for example, now if I give you an example,
Yeah.
Yeah.
if I'm say coaching yoga, for that
Hmm.
matter,
Hmm.
so I will first do a, what you call bit of analysis to find out what is strengths and what is gaps are, right?
Hmm.
For that, you may use certain tools like a 360 feedback analysis, maybe MBTI profiling, Myers-Briggs type indicator profiling. I'll also interview some of his, maybe the boss and the HR department, and gather first the data about
Yeah.
his career and whatever his future intentions, whatever
Yeah.
his future potentials, what the organization is looking at. So when I
Yeah.
Yeah.
gather that data, so I analyze that and try to find out a path for yoga to go forward in his career, to
Yeah.
help him as a coach. So
Right.
that analysis part will give me certain strengths what yoga is having, and
Hmm.
also certain maybe areas he needs to improve. So if you
Yes.
take an organizational problem, again, it's a similar thing, but you may use different tools for that. Right?
Correct.
If you have a lot of tools have been developed. Now there are software tools even, where you will apply those tools and find, analyze the problem,
Hmm.
and then find solutions.
Right.
But
Right.
whether whatever you do, again, it's the people you are going to use to execute those solutions. So as a leader,
Yeah.
again, what the team capabilities of your team and yourself as a leader and your second and third tier leaders
Hmm.
is very important.
It's
So as a
crucial.
leader, you have to build those capabilities in your team, so that whatever the analysis, the solution you find through those analysis can be executed. So that's my basically experience as a military leader and also as a consultant during the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Right. Right. Amazing. Fantastic. Fantastic.
I think
Raj. Hmm. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
what I really liked about when Raj was telling about how he would personally analyze a person before coaching was that he said you would consider the strengths, and he never used the term weaknesses. He said gaps. So that itself is quite amazing because it doesn't sound as if it's a fault, but something to be improved on. So it's just a gap between where you are and where you want to be. So kudos to
Yes.
you, Raj, for that. Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Yoga for the
Right.
next
So
question.
from that, now I think we spoke about teams a little bit. So I think I would like to bring that discussion right onto teams into the center of the discussion.
Okay.
Yeah.
We feel like now, for example, everybody in the world now the buzzword is teamwork. People
Okay.
write on their CVs a great team player, and then on requests for CVs or advertisements to vacancies, people say
Yeah.
have to be a great team player.
Yeah.
In annual reports we talk so much about how we are great team players, we build a team culture and all of that, but we have also seen the rise of dysfunctional teams and teams that self-destruct.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is, Raj? In your experience, you have seen so many teams succeed and I'm sure some fail. Why do you think now we have the rise of dysfunctional teams and teams that will self-destruct? Why
Yeah.
do you think so, and how can we improve that?
So when it comes to teams, or again, now teams are made up of individuals. right? So whatever those individuals between them, so one major factor could be is that the mutual trust between team members is
Right.
very critical. So mutual trust and the respect. So
Yes.
that's something I think the
I think there was a slight technical issue.
right. So
Continue.
nurturing the team's mutual respect and mutual understanding with each other is critical for a team to function.
Correct.
Then also, teams become dysfunctional again when people have different agendas. They are personal agendas,
Yeah.
right? So when people have personal agendas, what happens is they tend to go on those lines, and they have
Hmm.
very selfish sometimes agendas, which will
Yeah.
hinder a team to function effectively as a cohesive unit.
Yeah.
So those are, I think, two very fundamental aspects. And also teams can become dysfunctional again due to various personal differences. Uh,
Right.
so if I give you an example, now Pins
Yes,
and
please.
Philippine consultants,
Right.
myself, my joint partner is Dr. Jayanta Patil.
Hmm.
He's also from the military background, but he has a private sector as a head of HR in organization for about 10 years, and
Right.
academically highly acclaimed gentleman professional.
Right.
But if you take two of us,
Right.
though we have very much similarities, but we also have very big differences, right?
Right.
Approach to problem solving, in our approach to various assignments we take on, and
Right.
he has his own strengths. I have my own strengths. So what we do as a team is we try to harness our strengths,
Hmm.
not try to a kind of shine on our differences or try to heighten our differences.
Exactly.
So we
Right.
Yeah.
try to harness the strengths we have,
Friends. Hmm.
and then we kind of find solutions for our clients. So at that, so far we have been very successful in doing that, preserving our mutual respect and understanding with each other, and being a highly effective team of consultants. So that's an
Right.
example I can give you,
Beautiful.
which I think a lot of people can use in their own teams.
Yeah, that's right. So I think anyway, the biggest differences usually come from the fact that we are not ready to understand the other person's perspective, and
Exactly.
we are steadfastly strong on our opinion, and our opinion is what matters, isn't it,
Exactly.
Raj?
Yeah.
Hmm.
That's yoga.
Great.
What we discussed earlier about the trust building three factor, the
Hmm.
empathy factor. Yeah,
Right.
you need to go into the other person's shoe and try to understand that
Yeah.
person's perspective, right?
Hmm.
If you
That's
do
very
that,
true.
it's easy for you to for people to work with each other.
Correct. So what you're suggesting is that when we have empathy and when we understand each other, then the gap in between people is reduced.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Amazing, amazing, amazing. Donna?
So, of course, heading on to the next question, Raj. Of course, you were talking about communication in terms of building the trust also in teams. So, this question is also with regard to communication. I'm sure there was a massive role in terms of communication that you dealt with in the military. So,
Yeah.
how did you have to change your communication methods from the military and when you're joining the private sector? How did the change happen?
Well, yeah, the military, I told you, it's a hierarchical, command-driven organization.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So most of the communication is very direct. My boss will tell me, Raj, get into that helicopter and land in Murthu Beach. Very simple as that.
Yeah.
So,
As
but
simple
that's
as
not
that.
that's not
Yeah.
that simple. I had to do my own planning, brief my
Yeah.
men, get my men ready, and then go and do that job. I had done it so many times. So it's
Yeah.
very direct, right? He may not ask me, Raj, can you go and land in Murthu Beach? No, no way. He
There
will
is
tell
no
me,
space for politeness.
yeah, be
It's
ready
more
when
sort
you
of
go.
autocratic. Yeah.
Yes. So the it's very direct, very brief and very direct kind of communication. But
Hmm.
what I found was in the private sector when I joined,
Hmm.
My first lesson was given by my son and daughter, who were like about 8 and 10 years old at that time. My daughter was like 9 years old, and my son was like 8 years old.
Right.
So I just retired from the army in 2005, and I
Right.
was home now, like couple of months until I was joining the private sector. So I used to give orders to my son and daughter. Daughter, do this. Son, don't do that. Do this. So one day they told me, Tati, you are no more in the army. You are
Yeah,
retired. Don't, we are not your soldiers. Don't try to command us.
absolutely.
Something like that.
Wow.
Ah,
Okay, that's
I,
amazing.
in fact, that really hit me. And
Hmm.
I
Yeah,
realized, my God, yes, I am
Yeah.
still in my old role as the colonel of Special Forces Regiment, and now I have to
Yeah.
remove that hat and
Yeah.
wear the hat of a father and a husband when I
Hmm.
am at home, and when I
Yeah.
go to my civil job, I need to be a civilian leader. So
Yeah.
I took about 1 year for me to soften that my way of communication. I think I'm sure my colleagues at Sri Lanka Insurance will remember how how I was when I really joined the initially, and how I was like after 1 year time.
Right.
But that shows that human beings are flexible.
Yeah.
Any human being is flexible,
Hmm.
provided you have a desire to change. You can
yeah,
change. Though you have
Correct.
been in one system for 25 years, does
Yeah.
not stop you from changing your behavior and adjusting yourself to another
Correct.
environment. That's the
Correct.
lesson there.
yeah. So, Raj, I mean, to elaborate more on that note, like what were the specific things apart from like, having an autocratic leadership style in the army, and then you more sort of must have shifted towards being diplomatic and then dealing with people and empathizing and getting their opinion as well, and things like that. So, I mean, can you just give us maybe like be more specific on different things that really shifted from the autocratic leadership style to the corporate sector? If you can be more specific and give us a little bit of insight
Yeah,
about.
I think the one thing I always was passionate about learning.
Hmm.
I always, in fact, I used to carry a small book into jungle whenever I used to go.
Wow.
One book I carried was what you call S02. It's about a small special force patrol which survived in the desert war, and they had a huge experience. Some of them lost their lives, but a couple of them managed to escape. And one of those guys wrote that book, and that really inspired me. In fact, one factor inspired me to develop this long range recce patrol (LRRPs) in the army.
Hmm.
Now, let's see, reading one book had inspired me to do something different. So
Wow.
similarly, my habit of learning and trying to experiment and trying to do things differently helped me for that transition from a more of a more direct transactional authoritative kind of a leadership to more of a participative coaching style leadership.
Hmm.
So it's a journey, but if a leader is interested, uh, he or she can learn. So that's something I always try to do in my coaching also. Try to give that repertoire of styles from being a because you need to be authoritative and commanding in certain situations as a leader.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
you do not hesitate from doing that, because that's you are required to do that. Like in an emergency, you don't have much
Yes.
time, right?
Yeah.
Or there's a deadline, right? So you have to meet that. So perhaps at that time, and people will understand that, because they know that you are like that because of the situation. But if you
Yeah.
are always like that, they are not going to like your style of leadership, right? They'll hate
Correct.
you, they'll curse you. So
Yeah.
that you need to learn that whole repertoire of leadership styles, like coaching style, participative style leadership. So those kind of leadership styles will give you that flexibility for you to be effective in any situations or with any type of individual.
Yeah.
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 I think what I really liked about what you said was, Raj, the fact that you're very passionate about learning, because as you correctly said, having the 25 years of experience, like more sort of having that autocratic style to move on to a more democratic, participatory type of leadership is not really easy. I mean, I could probably imagine like maybe you were angry or annoyed when things are not
Yeah.
done in the way. So I don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm just imagining. So I'm sure it must have been very, very difficult. So kudos to you. And the fact that you're still passionate. I still remember, I think we were together watching a competition, a speech
Yes.
competition, and you were still reading a Robin Sharma book, like, in the middle of that. So that
Oh,
itself, yeah, that itself shows like how passionate you are, like in reading and learning and
right.
unlearning things that you've gone through. So kudos to you. I think it's something that we all can really learn, because some people really have this myth that I have been in this particular environment for such a long time and I can't change like that.
Yeah.
And so many people, you can give excuses for their failures and for lack of results and success in their
Yeah.
life, and people can easily give up. But then you're clear proof that you are still continuing to learn and you're willing to change. So thank you very much for sharing that lesson with us.
Yeah. Okay.
So
Very
we will
happy.
pick the word change and we will transition to the next idea.
Okay.
Yeah,
Raj, change, as they say, is the only thing that never changes. And in your case, you transitioned from a military leader to a private sector corporate leader, and then from there, now you have ventured into private consultancy and
Hmm.
leadership. Amazing. But for each role, you had to learn, you had to adopt, you had to change. I'm sure that transition was very difficult, but throughout, you had to change in order to fit in the different roles. Explain about change and what you learned throughout those changes.
Yeah, yoga, I think, is a very appropriate word on a concept, the change, which is, I think, a fundamental thing of nature. I mean, everything changes on a daily, only like a even like a seconds like basis, it changes. So,
Yeah,
how do we manage as human beings and as leaders is the important factor which determines our success or failure. So
yeah.
in my case, what my learnings were that one thing you need to plan ahead.
Hmm.
Now my transition from military to the private sector, I had a plan really. I did my masters at the Kotala Defense University, masters in management,
yeah,
did certain readings, and that kind of gave me that confidence that okay, I can now transit into the private sector.
Right.
Then been in the private sector for about 10 years, and
Hmm.
then my desire to become an independent consultant and a trainer, I found that I can do better, I can contribute better to the development of leaders by being a consultant rather than being a manager or someone or senior manager or someone. So again I had a plan. Again I did my coaching competencies and accreditations. I went to India, and Hemas Holding was so generous to invest on me for that a large sum of money. That way I prepared and I planned. So planning is
Amazing.
one thing I think for change. Secondly, you need to be inquisitive, and you have that mind set that you like to kind of do things differently, do new
Hmm.
things, experiment. Even if I want to take a road, there are two roads. I will not take the same road every day. Like I'll try to take the other road and see. I did it today also, and I
Nice.
took the other road and I found it to be more shorter, and it is saving time. Had I
Hmm.
not tried that, I don't know how that road is. So that means
Yeah.
you need to have that mindset, flexible, open mindset is the other thing. You need to come out of that shell you are in that very comfort zone you are in, and always try to challenge yourself for that. Another
Right.
factor I should mention here is Donna, what you mentioned earlier about the Robin Sharma book. Now, mindfulness is something I have practiced since year 2000.
Okay.
When I was a military guy, you may be asking, how can you be mindful and maybe shoot at an enemy? Well,
Right.
you
mm,
can,
Okay.
because that's your job.
Hmm.
Whatever the job you do or your personal life, mindfulness mattered a lot for me. Uh, Fortunately, I was fortunate enough to meet a priest who came to Jaffna in 2000. There was a peace time at that time. We had about 5 6 months of peace, and that gave me the opportunity to start practicing breathing meditation. So that's basically mindfulness meditation. So I have
Right.
practiced that for the last 21 years. So that
Wow.
really helps me to get balanced. I am less,
Wow.
I don't have much anxiety, or I can be, I not that I won't get stressed. I'll get stressed, but I can very quickly come out of that stress and use that stress for my advantage. And
Right.
unfortunately, countries like Sri Lanka, though we have introduced meditation to other countries through
Yeah.
Hindu and Buddhist traditions,
Yeah.
but it's the Europeans who are reaping the benefits today. If you see,
Yeah, absolutely.
even the militaries like the US Army, British Army, they use these mindfulness practices there for to enhance
Wow.
their performance levels,
Wow.
which something we can learn from those countries. Though we have generated our forefathers and our
Yeah.
gurus
It stemmed from this
influence in
land and
India.
it has gone abroad.
Sorry,
Yeah,
exactly. That's right, yoga.
So many
Yeah,
people have benefited from it, and I think, for example, you are saying for 21 years you have been practicing that. That's amazing. That's amazing. That's amazing to see. I think people like us, we should pursue in that path also. That's amazing. I think this you are proof that how well it has helped you. That's amazing.
yeah,
Raj. Thank you very much for sharing that. And
yeah.
then have you seen people practice it in other countries, like wherever you have
yeah. I
visited
mean,
in
if
army?
you because in my coaching also, that is one of the techniques I teach my coaches also, like especially who are highly stressed, who are in doing highly stressful jobs, so especially like in highly like competitive job roles.
Yeah.
Um, so they have told me that once they have started practicing for a couple of months, they have seen their results and they are now continuing. But the whole problem with all of us is that we start something new fad
Hmm.
with a lot of gusto and energy at the beginning. But
Yeah,
Yeah.
when we come up with various other day to day our uh, agendas, we forget that. So
correct.
Yeah.
We lose
yeah,
the
so that is
discipline.
something we need to be mindful. If you want to
Right.
have some habit to be built into, you need to have that discipline, self
Yeah.
discipline, to ensure that you practice on a regular basis. Otherwise, you won't
That's
get it.
amazing. That's
Yeah,
amazing. Amazing. Raj, on that, you said how you moved from one area to another. While moving from being a military leader to a corporate leader, you
Yeah,
said how you had to learn absolutely new skills, you had to do your MBA, you had to do your other training and all of that. Assumption usually is when you have achieved in something. For example, we see a lot of military leaders lead organizations as their HR heads and so on and so forth.
right.
People think it's for free. It's you become a leader in one area, the other doors open for you freely. But what you
yeah,
are educating us and sharing with us today is that that's not the case. But every single person is making sure that they are getting ready for the other transition, and that is how opportunities are opening up.
yeah,
Yes, that's
absolutely.
true.
That's amazing.
Yeah, yoga, that's true. So you
Hmm.
need
Yeah,
to have like a some idea where your future going to be. You need to
Yeah.
have a kind of future, kind of vision for yourself,
Right.
and with that vision only, you will kind of design your journey, and
Yeah.
you need to have that self discipline and the learning mindset
Hmm.
to ensure you achieve those milestones.
True,
yeah,
true, very true. That's amazing, Raj. We are coming to the last 12 minutes. I don't think anybody felt that 48 minutes have passed, but then I think,
absolutely.
yeah, we should use these balance 12 minutes also to learn a little more from Raj, who has been sharing amazing knowledge. We should also quickly run to the a few comments of people who regularly join us. Shamit
Yeah,
Yeah,
Vivek, who's an aviation leader, who's a good friend of all of us, says, great to see Colonel Raj Vijayasiri, who was a mentor and a great coach during my tenure at Hemas. Rainmakers, I'm sure you will probably need a lengthy session with him. I'm sure that is true.
okay.
I'm sure that is very true. So
Thank
thank you very
you.
much, Shamit, for always joining and supporting. And a good friend Navaneet and Jan Prakasam says, Nawa says, a fitting finale. Thank you very much, Nawa, for always joining. And also Fazir, who has always joined and supported the podcast, says insightful session and appreciate the efforts made by everybody. Thank you very much. Fazil, appreciate all of that. Now, without wasting any more time, let's jump in to the next question, Donna.
Yeah, of course. So, Raj, I think you were talking about how, like, in terms of meditation, people really started, people become excited about mindfulness, but then
Yeah.
we really do not have the discipline, the perseverance to really continue because we get lost in our day to day agendas.
Yeah.
And as a result, we don't see any growth, any results over what we have really started because we are not patient enough to continue till it really delivers results to us. So my
Yeah.
next question is also focused on results, Raj. So you are a certified trainer from US, and many organizations invest a lot on training and development,
Right.
but not all of those really result in growth. So
Right.
where do you think the gap is?
Hmm.
Yeah. Now to answer your question, in fact, one reason why I was passionate to become a consultant was that question. Right?
Right.
No.
I saw a lot of the places I also worked, and even
Hmm.
certain other companies that I got to know.
Hmm.
And I was involved in training and development for the last 10 years in that those two corporates. So what
Right.
they are also what I saw was that corporates are really they especially the HR department, even the bosses are keen to get quick results. Now,
Yes.
you must realize that other than a technical competency, like for example, how to
Yeah.
maybe do an online session. Now, there are
Hmm.
certain technical aspects that you need to learn. Now, my good friend Tissa Disanayak, who is a veteran online deliverer, man,
Yes.
he helped
Amazing
me
human
to
being.
pick up some of those technicalities. And
Yes.
technically, I learned quickly, right?
Yeah.
But now the other part, the behavioral part, how you maybe communicate, how you use your body language, how you use your
Hmm.
voice, all that, I can't just go to a workshop for one day and learn it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How long did it take me for that? Maybe about 6 7 years as a toastmaster. My journey really brought me to that level of confidence, self-confidence, and also those competencies. So
Yeah.
in the corporate world, I think they need to focus at the middle manager level, where they have already got about 5 to 10 years experience in the whatever the field, whether it's a bank or whether it's a manufacturing organization, whether it's a hospital.
Yeah.
And that time, by that time, that person, he or she has realized the whole business,
Hmm.
understand the business. Now
Yeah.
that's the time you need to develop the fundamental leadership and managerial skills on with those people.
Yeah.
For example, like decision making skills, negotiation skills, team leadership, even your own leadership styles. How do you use that whole plethora of leadership styles? Now, those fundamentals are mostly behaviors, right?
Yeah.
And behaviors you need time for development, right?
Right.
And then attitudes, certain attitudes of people, their behavior, their values, that takes time. So therefore, whatever the training programs you do, one thing is very important: you catch them at the proper time. When they
Yeah.
become a very senior manager with about 25 years service, it's very hard to change those people, right? You
True.
can change, but it's very hard. So
Yeah.
focus when they are young, and then focus on programs which address those long-term changes, not very
Yeah.
short-term one-day workshop. You can give an awareness, but
Yeah.
hardly any change.
Yeah.
So change will the only thing that will give you results for an organization, for the individuals. When individuals change, the teams change. When teams change, the organization changes. That's how it works. So that's what my philosophy. In our Pils and Fabian consultants also, we don't look at making these 2 minute noodles, instant
Yeah.
solutions. We are looking at more
Absolutely.
sustainable solutions for the organization. So the question I will ask all as a business leader is: would you like to invest 5 million now on your people for a 1 year program, or lose 15 million another 2 3 years down the line? So you have to make
Yeah.
a judgment. What is your priority?
Amazing.
Beautiful.
I think that's a
Absolutely.
beautiful question to ask. And then we transition to this area. That
Yeah.
is, Raj, um, uh, you have seen people sacrifice their lives to protect this country and save this country for the future of the country.
Yeah.
Now we are the people who should build the future for our country and the future generations to come. Um, what do you think we should improve? We should grow. We should. What are the key areas that skills and qualities that we should learn and implement in order for us to have a future that is successful as a country together?
Uh, Yoga, I think that's a great question, which I think we all as Sri Lankans should ponder and ask ourselves from the very top number one gentleman in the country today to the lowest maybe person in the country. What I have realized is now I have traveled to countries like Malaysia and Singapore,
Right.
and in a country like US, I have been there a couple of times. Those are
Right.
very highly multicultural, multi-ethnic countries. If you
Right.
take US, you will find people from all over the world in US, right?
Yeah.
But how did they become so successful as a nation? Take
Right.
Singapore for that matter. Take Malaysia.
Yeah.
I think
Mm.
the main thing is that they realize that respecting others,
Mm.
understanding others is one thing, and also being little less selfish. Now you find that in Sri Lanka, you go to a road, I try
Mm.
to somehow overtake the other guy cutting the double line, whatever it is. If I
Yeah.
see a line, I will try to somehow jump the line and get to the front.
Yeah.
Mm, so these attitudes, unfortunately, maybe in this kind of third world country, we have them because lack of resources.
Yeah.
People are also always try to get something that is available rather than looking at the other person. So
Correct.
Yeah.
perhaps that attitude change is a very difficult thing to happen. But again,
Mm.
as I told you earlier, if people set the example at the very top,
Yeah.
this will change. So it's always change come from the top. Now, if you take even
Yeah.
organization, don't think that just because you change the middle managers or junior managers, the organization is going to change. No,
Yeah.
it will always
Mm.
come from the top. So if the
Correct.
top gives an example,
Mm.
the nation will. For example, I'll tell you. Like I live in an apartment complex here. We have about 32 families in our management corporation. We have Muslim families. We have Tamil family. We have Sinhalese families. Now, for the last like 20 years, we have been living together here, helping each other, exchanging food, looking after each other when troubles happen to other families,
Yeah.
uh, and and we are so fortunate to live in an environment like this. So
Yeah.
if we can replicate the same environment to the whole Sri Lanka,
Yeah.
perhaps Sri Lanka will have a better future.
Mm.
So it's a tough journey, but
Yeah.
if people are really interested and if the leaders can give leadership, perhaps we can. Unfortunately, I think they have failed. That's what I
Yeah.
see.
Yeah. Yeah. That's, I think, very true. That's very true. I think Raj, like you said, people we have seen pictures of Japanese people standing in front of a supermarket right after a tsunami or a
Mm,
earthquake, in
yes,
queues, waiting to get in first and always
yes,
leaving food for the others to be taken home, which is
yeah.
amazing. I think that discipline is what you were saying, and also to be selfless for the country. That's amazing. Thank you very much for sharing that. Thank you very much for sharing that. Donna, would you like to add something before we
Yeah.
move on to the next question? Yeah.
Yeah, of course. I think I completely agree with to what really Raj said. I mean, as people, we have become very selfish. We put our needs first, and as Raj very correctly said, we really look for whether there are cops before we really, pass through the red lights, or like before we use the pedestrian crossing and things like that. I think
Yeah.
this requires really like an attitudinal change. Like, I
Hmm.
mean, just keep aside everything else, even during amidst this COVID, the pandemic, I feel like people are not really doing their responsibility properly, or people are
Mm,
not aware, or like there is something wrong somewhere
yeah,
that,
yeah.
I mean, I just recently got to know that there was a person who, with all the symptoms of COVID has gone for a dinner, and then those
Mm.
people have got it, and that person has died out of it. So I
Mm.
mean, so you know for a fact that you have the symptoms. Why do you want to go
Yeah.
out there? And so things like that. I mean, people really need to be conscious and be aware and be
Mm.
more like thinking about others than really putting yourself first and putting your needs first. So I think that
Yes.
is where the change should really happen. It's not about blaming this party or that party, that nobody is like really doing or giving us what we want, but really to start from you and then start from home. I think that's what Raj was also saying. So that attitudinal change is something that we really, really need right now. So, with that, Raj, let me focus on the next question.
Yeah.
Uh, that is, we can make the best plans, but without implementation, they mean nothing. So,
Yes.
your key area of expertise is Raj, strategic implementation.
Yeah.
What are some of the secrets that you can share with us, with our viewers, in terms of implementation, strategic implementation?
Yeah. Now, you find that strategy. Now, there's a saying, kind of say that the you can have the best strategy, but with poor execution will not help that best strategy. But if you have even a moderate strategy, but if you have great execution, you will achieve results. So even now, some of the kind of assignments we have taken on some of these corporates, we found that not that they don't have strategy, they do have strategies, right? They do have very well spelled out strategies are there. Whether it can be a sales strategy or marketing strategy, or how do you maybe change your business module or mode of your business, strategies are there. So it's where the
Yeah.
execution really the failure comes in. So
Yeah.
when it comes to execution, again, we found that there are aspects like what we talked about earlier, like the trust is one aspect, right? And then some of the discipline of execution, right? Discipline of meetings could be discipline of maybe having regular accountability systems. So
Yeah.
all these things, when it comes to if you can have a great execution, you will get great results. Let me give you an example now. Uh, for example, now if you take this is again a military example. Now, for example,
Hmm.
now we found that the LTT at that time, they were using some of the very deep penetration teams to attack some of the southern areas, right? That was their strategy. So we found that, so what can we do about it? So that's
Right.
where these long range patrol teams came in.
Right.
And it's a simple strategy. I mean, you go and attack the enemy's depth, you destabilize them, right? That's
Right.
what happened to the Sri Lankan government and the forces. And LTT was smart enough to do that. They were very capable of doing that at that time.
Right.
And we were not that capable. So what we did was we realized that let's turn the tables and let's use the same strategies on them. And we
Against them.
developed the capability. So the thing is, this execution is again the main thing. So we trained hard those people, the long range teams, for quite a long period. We gave them some of the good equipments, and then got them on those missions. So
Right.
it's again, I should say it's an average strategy. A strategy perhaps we copied from our enemy, and execution was the critical factor there. So I think always as leaders, you need to keep working with your team members to take the your execution to the next level. So it's a very continuous work you need to do on a continuous basis as a leader.
Yeah.
Amazing. Amazing. That's fantastic. I think that brings us to the last question.
Okay.
Raj, I think this has been an amazing session, but we can't conclude without this question, I believe, because this we
Yeah. I
both
think it's
wanted to
very
know.
important.
Yeah.
Correct.
So, Raj, the absence of war is not peace, they say. The absence of
Yes.
war is not peace, they say.
Yeah.
As a leader who has fought and sacrificed for it, what makes what mistake should we never repeat to sustain the peace we have earned and now we enjoy?
Beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, it's I think a very critical and an important question at this juncture of Sri Lanka, because we have faced two insurrections, JVP insurrections, right?
Mm.
Then we have had a 30-year war. Now, if you take all these wars, we are just fighting our own brothers and sisters, right? You can't even call it a war really, because this is just, you are fighting your own people. If you really have to wage war, you have to wage war against maybe the Indian troops or Chinese troops. That's war, right? You are just fighting your own people. So
Yeah.
I think the fundamental problem here is that there are various elements in any country, I think, have their own agendas, be it
Yeah.
political leaders, be it religious leaders, be it business leaders,
Mm.
social leaders.
Mm.
They may have certain, sometimes very selfish agendas, right?
Yeah.
Not very long-term agenda. They don't think about the country at the top. They think about their own party's agenda or their own religion's agenda, or whatever it is, and they think that it is justifiable to carry forward that agenda with all the money, the other influencers through media and all that they can gain. So I
Yeah.
think the people, especially the younger generation, must be mindful that country like ours, a multi-ethnic, multi-religious country, there is no future by being divided
Mm.
between all of
We,
us. So
yeah.
use, especially, I mean, there is technology available today, right? There are so many online platforms available, social media. Use those technologies to bring bridges between religions, between uh, cultures, between ethnicities.
Yeah.
Uh, Good example is my son and daughter. I mean, they have Muslim friends, they have Tamil friends, they have Sinhalese friends, right? They don't care at all who, what religion they are, what ethnic race or anything. I mean, they are just friends. So I think that way, yeah, I think I have a hope that younger generation perhaps are more understanding about these issues, and they are more understanding, and they are more respecting, and they are
Mm.
more accommodating with each other
Yeah.
than maybe us and our fathers and our mothers. So that's the
Mm.
only hope I think this country has. Uh,
Yeah.
I hope younger generation will take that opportunity and build bridges rather than burning bridges, which I think most of the other interested parties are doing today. Is that so? I think we
Very
need to
true.
keep that in mind.
Raj, I think it's also important to understand each other's culture and differences, isn't it? I think what we feel is when something is different, we have to be scared about it.
Yeah,
What
Yeah.
would you say about it? Have you made an effort to understand as a military leader to understand the cultures, understand the differences, and then
mm.
make build those bridges?
Yeah. I can give you a good example, Yoga. Like
Hmm.
when I was a young captain back in Jaffna,
Right.
I can remember I was very passionate to learn about the Hindu culture, right, and
Right.
the Tamil culture. So what I
Right.
did, I went to Jaffna University. I met the professor, dean of the history department, Jaffna. I can remember
Right.
that gentleman's name, but he was very helpful. When I told him that, sir, I need to, do something like this, I will learn this. Can you help me? So he, in fact, got me took me to the library, Jaffna University Library, which is a very nice library, and he gave me a couple of books. He was generous enough to lend me a couple of books, and whenever I had free time, I read those books. And my God, after about 1 years of reading, I got a
Right.
huge amount of knowledge and also respect towards the Tamil culture and their history, which I
Right.
didn't have earlier.
Right.
Yeah.
So this is, I think, one way we need to be mindful and start learning about each other, and though, as you said, not to be afraid of those differences,
Yeah.
but to be comfortable and accommodative
Yeah.
with those differences, but try to see the similarities more than the
Correct.
differences. We
Yeah.
Exactly.
all have yoga, whether you are a Tamil or a Muslim or a Sinhalese,
Yeah.
we are first human beings, right?
That's
So
right.
we
That's
have
very true.
our value system which are very common to each other. So try to
Yeah.
see those commonalities than the differences. I
Yeah.
think that's the way
Yeah.
forward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'll give you the simplest example, Raj. First of all, I have to say what an amazing thing for you to do. just because you were inquisitive to learn the culture, you went and learned and read books, and you started looking at it from a different perspective completely.
Amazing.
That's
Yeah.
amazing. That's fantastic. I think all of us should do that. Then the
Yeah.
differences will not look scary, but then we will understand the rationales behind the differences of different things that we do. That's amazing. That's
Yeah.
fantastic. Example, Raj, is in life we will always have people who are good and people who are evil, irrespective of what religion, what language, what country we represent it. In
Yeah.
1983, in the riots, my father's business and all his properties were
Mm.
stolen and burnt and whatnot.
Yeah.
And then it was a friend of his who is a Sinhalese Buddhist who safeguarded him and took care of him, and who made sure the family
Yeah.
was not in harm's way. He survived because his friend, without looking at what religion or what language or what ethnicity he comes from,
Yeah.
saved him as a human being, and we all are alive because of that reason. So I think there is always good and evil, irrespective of what it is. It is our responsibility to make an effort so that we learn about each other, we grow towards each other, and rather than burning bridges, we always make an effort to build a bridge. And I think for you, amidst a war, to have gone and read books about another culture is amazing. I think that gave you a different perspective, and that is why we could have now a civil conversation like this and discuss things that are difficult, isn't it, Raj? Thank you very much for
Yeah.
sharing that. It's amazing. Huh?
Yeah. Yeah, of course. I mean, adding to that, yoga, I think what is really the problem with us, I think, is, as you said, as Raj shared, like, is the lack of awareness and understanding about each other. Because most of us, we tend to think, okay, I'm a Buddhist and my religion is the best, and I'm a Hindu and my
Hindu
religion is the best, or I'm a Muslim,
or,
my religion
or
is the
Christian,
best, without really understanding.
knowing
If
it.
you don't know about the other religions, how do you come into that conclusion that yours is the best?
Yeah,
Yeah, so I think the
or any
fun,
culture for that matter,
Yeah.
or
exactly,
country for that
exactly.
matter. Yeah.
Absolutely. So I think this was really shared by the Minister of Justice now, Muhammad Ali Sabri, also, that in one of his speeches he said that, like, in schools we really need to change the religion that we are studying. If I'm a Buddhist, what's the point of me going and studying Buddhism at
Yeah.
school? Obviously,
Exactly.
yeah,
Yeah.
so I mean, I think there has to be some sort of a way in which we really understand each other in order for us to really live in peace and harmony. Otherwise, without doing that, we there is no way that we can say that we are the best, or you are the best. So I think, as
So
Raj
yeah,
very
it's good
correctly
to
said,
learn that your religion also again back in school, but then also the other religions. This, maybe that is how we should put it, which is true, which I agree, which is amazing, which is amazing.
yeah,
I think
yeah,
that is a very important learning. Yeah.
and also I think it should start from the home itself. I mean, thank God, like, Raj is a very balanced minded parent and he's allowing such association. But there are, like,
Yeah.
parents who really brainwash their kids right from the start that we are, like, so
Yeah.
superior. And then I think it has to be encouraged that we need to learn Tamil, we need to learn English, we need to learn Sinhalese in order for us to survive in this country. So that has to be the norm, for a brighter future. So that is just my like my thought with regard with. So I
Beautiful.
really do agree with what Raj and you shared.
Beautiful.
So
Beautiful.
I think we are coming to the end of the session, Yoga. So can I do the closing remarks and then hand
Yes,
it
please.
over?
Yeah,
Yeah.
please.
So thank you very much, Raj, for absolutely amazing session. We actually did not even feel. I think we've spoken for about 1 hour and 15 minutes, almost 15 minutes. I absolutely didn't even feel it because I think you shared great insights, and it was very interesting to learn from your perspective, especially that you've had 25 years of experience in the military. So
Yeah.
kudos to you for your great service, and then not stopping there, but also coming to the corporate field and then rendering your service to the people who really need it in terms of result implementation. To anyone who is the viewers who are joining with us, you can easily contact Raj, and I'm sure Yoga will share it on screen, the
Yeah.
LinkedIn profile and everything. So thank you, Raj. Although you're extremely busy, you joined with us and then shared your great insights. So kudos to you, and wishing you all the very best to conquer much greater heights.
Thank you, Donna. Thank you for that great opportunity you all, both of you gave me, Yoga and Donna, and
The
being
pleasure is all
colleagues in
ours,
our
Raj.
Toastmaster community also, I'm really excited to see both of you again, and
Yeah, thank you
maybe
very
back
much,
on.
Raj. I have to say this has been nothing but a learning opportunity. Amazing, absolutely amazing. From to learn from your experiences in from the battlefield, from the military to
Yeah.
the corporate sector, and then also from the experiences from your consultancy, which is amazing. Thank you very much for taking time and joining us and sharing with us your perspective of the world, which is beautiful. Thank you very much for joining and being part of the Rainmakers podcast.
Thank you, Yoga, for that opportunity. Thank you again.
And for everybody else who joined today, thank you very much for joining. And thank you very much for continuously supporting us and helping us move forward. This brings the closure to the second season of the Rainmakers podcast. We had somebody amazing to uplift us on the finale of the podcast. With the hope of seeing you on the third season of the podcast, we thank you very much and wish you all the very best. Be safe. Good luck. Good night. Take care.
Good night, everyone.